this one, we have the outrageous Okona. One of those episodes that really highlights an aspect of Star Trek that gets overlooked a lot in the series because of the fact that every version of Star Trek so far has, in some way, focused on the Federation ships and captains and crews, and almost entirely Starfleet personnel, with very few people who aren't Starfleet taking center stage. It's actually the main thing that made Star Trek Prodigy different from the other ones, is that it's not a real Federation crew, although it kind of sort of gets turned into one by holographic Janeway. Whatever. Anyways, Okona, the titular rogue of the episode, is notable for the simple fact that he is kind of sort of a Federation citizen, but he's not actually a Starfleet officer. And this becomes interesting when we get to the diplomatic negotiations in the episode. Because the fact that we find out that the two parties that are attempting to negotiate on an official capacity, what they don't know is that there has been unofficial negotiations of a variety of, well, channels. And Okona, his role in the story is actually that he was one of the channels with which unofficial negotiations took place. Which is an interesting thing, is because at the start of the story, he shows up as this weird rogue trader guy who's just an annoyance to everyone. And then you find out that his role in the story is actually that he was really just the messenger. And the real plot was that these two had decided to do private negotiations repeatedly in their bedrooms and not bother to tell their parents about it. Lots of private negotiations. And that is the part about this that gets interesting, is that the actual plot about this is something that in theory could have been um, just completely dumped if Okona had actually bothered telling people. It's just that, he's been doing this on the down low, trying to hide it for so long that he doesn't immediately decide to just drop the act. He eventually um, admits to it after the two uh, factions that were unofficially negotiating with each other uh, officially threatened to go to war about the unofficial negotiations that they didn't actually know took place until Picard and co. Ask Okona about it and get Okona to actually tell them what's going on. And that's the other thing about this. It's interesting is that when we get to the end of the story, we find out that the two fathers in question here, the only reason they were willing to go to war is that they didn't know the truth. If the two soon-to-be newlyweds had actually been upfront and honest about the whole thing, nothing would have happened. Seriously. Also, this guy is a turbo idiot for stealing one of the most prized possessions from his father and smuggling it to his future fiance. That aspect of the story is just like, it was a massive "what were you thinking" moment. And also, there's the fact that at some point in the story, we find out that Okona actually has the jewel on his person at the time and hadn't actually handed it off yet. because the kicker of the story was the moment when Kushel realizes that the Jewel of Thesia is missing. Okona is in a bind and can't actually deal with that, but he doesn't know exactly what to do about it and doesn't actually tell the truth about it. It gets weird and dumb. Again, though, it's one of those things where it's like, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And Okona, that's really not what he sells. That's the actual interesting thing, is that Okona's main personality defect, and his personality ends up becoming a major plot point in the episode due to just how much it focuses on him. His main personality defect is that he gets paid because he's not honest. It's like, you tell him to smuggle something, he will do it. And, if someone asks him about it later, he won't tell them the truth. And also, the crimes. Technically, it's true that he committed crimes on the planet Atlek. However, the crimes that he committed were actually the fact that he agreed to do things and not his own volition. It's because someone paid him to do it. And that is very interesting, shall we say. And also, it's like, why does Debin think that Okona is the one who knocked up Yanar? Really? I actually get the feeling that at some point, the person who was paying Okona had kind of sort of scapegoated him. Oh. Oh yeah. Also, this is an episode that has a use of the holodeck that's completely incidental and unimportant, and barely shows up for a few minutes. Anyway, though. So yeah, very, very complicated diplomatic situation where the real diplomatic emergency is the fact that the people who want you to handle the situation don't actually know what's going on. They know something noteworthy happened, but they don't know exactly what. And also, Okona's ship, kind of small. At least I think that's Okona's ship. This is the starting point where they're talking to him, I think. Anyway, yeah. Very, very strange way for the story to end, because, again, it's one of those things, it's like, Group A and Group B are lying to each other, and they're mad about the fact that they're lying to each other. Although they don't necessarily know what the truth is, and that is something that gets horribly, horribly wrong. Alrighty then. Well, that's enough.